This is AMIR SULAIMAN on the Y Factor 87.6 FM. Stay tuned, keep it locked, don't ever change from the channel ever.
Across the sea of life, so much pain, warring divides, it's a shame. We don't see how it can be. Oh, we need to smile at each other, wish for your brother, help one another. All we need is love.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all.
Our mother, shelter our sisters, all to existence. God's help will come from above. But first we need the love.
Mohammed, we're on air.
Oh, okay. Welcome to the final episode of the Y Factor. Today is Thursday, the 29th of December, 2011.
And that's so much better than your little boy voice.
I know.
Anyway, we're here on the Y Factor again for our last episode for 2011. SubhanAllah, we've managed to pull through every week, every awesome show every week.
Yeah, don't say awesome. We say awesome every week, even though it is awesome. Today we have an action-packed episode.
I think that we should trademark that every single week. We're like, hey guys, we have an action-packed episode.
With special guests.
But you know what? Can you blame us? Honestly, they have been pretty action-packed. And if you hear who we're interviewing today, you will agree with us that it's action-packed.
Just to recap, we've had Omar Regan, we've had Osama Cannon, we've had Anas Al-Tariqi, Baba Ali, we had Christina Keneally, Barry O'Farrell, even though they're local.
Yeah.
Baba Ali, Sheikh Navaid Aziz.
Allah. I've got a brain. I honestly have a brain freeze.
Yeah, I think we've written down an Excel spreadsheet of everyone we've had.
Yeah.
So
no, mashallah, I think it's been a very, very good year, mashallah. And this week we have
AMIR SULAIMAN. That's right, the HBO Def Jam poet from the United States of America.
That's right. If you were there Monday night, you must have been blown away, mashallah, by the performance. So at the Y Factor, since, you know, we always get you the most awesome speakers in town, we thought we'd bring him in for a chat. So make sure you stay tuned for AMIR SULAIMAN, and where we will ask him some questions and you'll get a perspective on the man behind the amazing YouTube videos.
And learn about the art of the spoken word and poetry. Also, guys, we know that holidays are coming up. It's pretty much, we're in holidays now. This is the last week of 2011, but in February, the Y Factor is launching for the first time to the community. Even though we've been running for a year, we're actually going to have an official launch. It's going to be an unbelievable event, but we'll give you more details as time goes by.
It's going to be an action-packed
launch. No, don't use action-packed. Exciting, I don't know. Amazing, astounding, astonishing, not exciting.
The thesaurus and see how we go. Okay, inshallah. So, Muhammad, we get started on the news so we can jump to AMIR SULAIMAN, inshallah, very soon. Okay, so in light of Christmas and our Christmas discussions and the like, unfortunately, in Nigeria, 30 people were actually attacked as they were attending Christmas Mass in the capital. Now, a group called Boko Haram has actually claimed responsibility for the attacks. However, a lot of Muslim organizations have actually come out and said this is just disgusting. A statement from CARE declared,
only a strong demonstration of interfaith unity will show those behind the attacks that they will never achieve their goal of dividing society along religious lines.
We condemn the unconscionable and inexcusable attacks on Nigerian churches and offer sincere condolences to the loved ones of those killed or injured. So this is the Council on American Islamic Relations, and I believe the European Council of Muslims also issued a statement. And honestly, at the end of the day, it is a religious celebration. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never ever attacked people during their religion.
And even his predecessors, I mean, Abu Bakr, Umar, during their reign as well.
Yeah.
There was freedom of religious practice that was always protected. So it's a sad case in Nigeria.
Well, Boko Haram, we don't know who you are, so
Boko Haram, stop what you're doing because it's haram.
Okay.
That's my fatwa for the day.
In Syria, unfortunately, the situation is getting so bad. The Arab League has actually sent monitors into the country to check out what's happening now. Twitter's been raging, the news sphere's been raging, because they're saying basically what they've done is they've gotten local media who are very pro Assad to actually accompany these monitors around. And what they're basically doing is actually showing only areas that, you know, nothing's wrong, or they've actually cleaned up a lot of the streets in which just last week a lot of deaths had occurred. Like just in the last week in Homs, 30 people actually died.
Yeah, and the team of Arab League observers who came to visit the city of Homs were escorted by residents, and they were actually pleading for international protection.
That's
so
right.
I think the people, it's about time. International intervention steps in.
Well, they actually have 70,000 protesters heading to Homs later this week, and so they're being, you know, greeted with tear gas and the likes. But I think in relation to intervention, now that you mention, I think a lot of people are hesitant, especially after what happened in Libya.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are kind of okay with, for example, Arab League resolution.
I don't mind the Arab League resolution, but not the UN or the US.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are iffy about that.
I think it's a very grey area. You don't want to get onto that.
That's right. Well, anyway, so let us know your thoughts on what's going to stop the bloodshed? Like in Egypt, you know, after a couple of months, things, you know, wound down, but in Syria, months, and subhanAllah, may God be with them. But let us know your thoughts on foreign intervention.
The Y Factor.
Onto the Southeast Asian region. An Australian mining company has halted its activities in Indonesia after 3 protesters were killed by police during a demonstration. The ARC Exploration, which is the name of the Australian mining company, has advised its shareholders, and I know about this stuff because I'm doing corporate law in summer school, via an announcement to the stock exchange that it has halted its gold exploration work on the island east of Bali. So riot police were actually there to shoot the anti-mining protesters.
Mohammed, I don't think they were there to shoot. They just happened to shoot.
The eventual outcome was 3 people dead, so they did shoot them. And the police say, you know, they're admitting now that it was an overreaction on their part.
Well, and the company said its operations are in full compliance with legal, regulatory and license requirements. And they've only halted the exploration just until the situation is quote-unquote resolved. Now, that's pretty disgusting. 3 people dead for protesting a mining.
Yeah. You know what else is disgusting? I think one of the royal family members has come back to good health.
As if you can compare that. Well,
I was just kidding.
Seriously?
No, if we're going to talk about them, we should talk about Molly Meldrum. He's more closer to home than Prince Philip.
Mohammed's rant is about Queen Elizabeth's dear husband, Prince Philip, has actually left hospital after being hospitalised for 4 days. And it was so sad, he couldn't even attend the royal family's Christmas celebrations, okay? Now, the outspoken 9-year-old was actually driven away, and he said his royal...
No, let me say this.
Okay, sorry.
His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh was discharged from Papworth Hospital this morning. He is returning to Sandringham by car. On departure, Prince Philip thanked the staff at Papworth for the excellent care he has received during his stay. Muhahaha.
All right. Seriously, you're on something today.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that was the UK.
The Y Factor.
Okay, Tasneem, give us the latest from Israel.
Well, ultra-Orthodox Jews have actually spit on and yelled at an 8-year-old American girl walking to school in their Israeli neighborhood. Now, this girl was actually in the city of Beit Shemesh, which is to the west of Jerusalem, and she was actually physically accosted and jeered at by black hat Orthodox Jews. And they said that she was a whore and dressing immodestly. Now, this has caused shock all over Israel, including President Shimon Peres, who actually came out and called for a rally. And he said the entire nation must be recruited in order to save the majority from the hands of a small minority. The obligation is everyone's responsibility.
That's right. The Israeli Prime Minister's comments are in regards to Jewish religious extremists, and it's expected more than 10,000 people to rally in Bet Shemesh, which sounds like Bet Shanglish, on Tuesday to protest.
Hungry.
Yeah, against violence against women and girls by Haredi extremists. Just on that note, there are a lot of religious extremist factions in Israel, and in particular Jerusalem. And it's about time this stuff gets noted. I have an Israeli friend, and he actually told me there's a certain street in a town in Jerusalem where you can't, if you're from another town like 2 kilometers away, you can't drive through. That's how religiously orthodox they are. So these extremists do exist.
Enclaves, but the problem is now Shimon Peres has come out and said, you know, we need to protest, blah blah blah. But these hardcore orthodox are major stakeholders, and they rally a lot of the votes. So although vocally they give them lip service and they tell them, you know, this is disgusting, let's rally the masses and things like that, at the end of the day, when it comes to elections, when it comes to appeals to votes, they go to these people.
Yeah, but bear in mind, the only reason this made news was because she's an American girl.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
if she was an Israeli girl, it would have been swept under the rug. So,
well, it's unfortunate, and I think religious extremism in any shape or form should be condemned.
MashaAllah, Mufti of Australia, Tasneem Saeed.
The Y Factor.
Now, this next news piece is very relevant to you, Mohammed.
That's right. 2 Swedish journalists have taken a bite off more than they can chew. An Ethiopian court has sentenced these 2 Swedish journalists to 11 years in prison for entering the country illegally and supporting terrorism.
Quote unquote.
Martin Schleiber and John Pearson were detained in July with rebels from the Ogaden National Liberation Front, ONLF. Now, these rebels have been fighting for independence since the 70s, and the journalists agreed, well, they were arguing that their contract with the rebels was merely to gain access to a region usually off limits to the press, because they wanted to report on the activities of the Swedish oil company Lundin Petroleum in the Ogaden.
Now, basically, the government said, too bad, anything associated with the ONLF is seen as, you know, supporting the rebels, and they were actually sentenced to 11 years. Now, their lawyer said that the verdict was brutal and that he would actually decide later this week whether or not to appeal.
But the Swedes themselves show no remorse at the sentencing. An AFP reporter was present in court, and he said the defense lawyer actually patted Schrips on the arm as the sentence was read out, as if to comfort him. But 11 years for reporting on a story is... I know. These guys must be really switched on journalists.
I think... even if it's not switched on, be careful where you report from. I mean, you know, these countries where it's a dictatorship, anything that's seen as, you know...
I don't know if it's a dictatorship. Just in general, whether there's rebellion against the government, just be conscious of all these groups. I mean, there's only so much you want to do for a story.
The Y Factor.
Moving on to the virtual world, a Twitter user is being sued by his former... What the hell are you doing?
I'm eating.
We're on air.
I'm hungry.
Put that down. Oh my god.
Okay.
Anyway, we're on air. So, a Twitter user is being sued by his former employer for $340,000 for taking his 17,000 followers with him when he actually changed jobs.
Now, that's what you call Twitter influence.
Tell me about it. 17,000. I mean, I thought you were famous with, you know, your 20 Facebook friends. However,
20,000 you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Noah Kravitz. How do you say that?
Kravitz.
Okay. Who lives in Oakland, California, basically quit his job at a popular mobile phone site, Phone Dog, 4 years ago. And a part of the deal was that he could actually keep his Twitter account in exchange for posting occasionally. The company asked him to tweet on their behalf, and from time to time said that they actually parted on good terms. Okay. Now, 8 months ago, 8 months after he left the company, Phone Dog actually sued him and said that the Twitter list was actually their customer list, and they're seeking damages of $2.50 a month per follower for 8 months, which is a total of $340,000.
Talk about sabotage when you get the sack. Did he leave? Did he get the sack? Sorry, he quit his job, so he didn't even get fired.
I mean, they had a handshake and a smile, so I don't know how. Yeah, so those of you
Sorry,
who
I'm just
are
digesting
tweeting,
chocolate as I'm trying to speak.
I can't believe you. Seriously, guys, if you're as outraged as me, get on the Facebook page and, you know, ask for Mohammed to be sacked. All right.
Never.
The next, in next weird news, we have flying insects.
That's right. Flying insects are the latest in spyware equipment, and they could soon be used in search and rescue missions to help locate survivors of earthquakes and other disasters.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
This is
right.
what scientists say, not me. So basically, tiny cameras and microphones are going to be mounted on beetles. And might be able to help emergency services find victims trapped or buried beneath rubble.
Because we all know that's what they're going to be used for when the research is actually being funded by the US government-run Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And get this, the guy, who's the guy, Mohammed? Professor Khalil Najafi.
Yeah, well, the Muslims are very advanced in their technological
In kinetic
progress.
technology.
Well, look, I'm going to be a bit more optimistic. The hope is that the bugs can be released into collapsed buildings or other areas that are too dangerous for human rescue teams to enter, so they can basically, find the person and inform them that help is on the way.
Who collapsed the buildings in the first place? It's been commissioned by the US government.
Oh, look, 100% it's going to have an avid use in terms of its military capacity. But I think in terms of its rescue hat,
yeah, definitely.
it can help out.
Think of the Chilean, the miners.
The Chilean, the New Zealand earthquake, the floods that are happening now on the north coast of Australia.
That's right. Well, basically, what they're saying is that this hybrid insect technology is being designed by a team of electrical and computer engineers at the University of Michigan, and it's being hoped that this will turn into something useful very soon.
The Y Factor.
Now we've got some good news for our coffee fans, just to show you the silver lining in your bad habit.
That's right. For all the coffee lovers out there, research has actually shown, or it's suggesting, that it can reduce the risk of developing endometrial cancer by up to 25%. The research and study was conducted by the American Association for Cancer Research, and they found that 4 or more cups of coffee may contribute to a lower risk of endometrial cancer by lowering levels of estrogen and insulin, which are related to endometrial carcinogenesis due to increased cell proliferation and reduced cell death. That's a lot of scientific jargon, isn't it?
I think basically what it is, it applies to females, and it's saying a lot of the cancers that endometrial can actually, this is, again, it's an observational study, so more research needs to be done. However, your coffee might just be your savior. So that's about it for international news. Local news?
Yep, on to local news. The most wanted man in New South Wales, Malcolm Naden, is probably surviving on raw kangaroo or wombat and won't be captured anytime soon. This is what the major authorities in charge of his investigation are saying. And they are also saying that if he has a gun handy as well, he's likely to remain at large. I still cannot believe that this guy is the most wanted man in New South Wales. I think, honestly, give him a few more weeks, he'll take the title as most wanted man in Australia by far.
Did you see last week how he entered that lady's home and took jats and rice crackers?
Yeah,
and things like that?
I'm not surprised though. He's born and bred in the country, so he knows what to eat, what not to eat, how to live off the land, all those sort of things. He's actually got a $250,000 bounty on his head, which is likely to encourage vigilante justice as well. Yeah. People who want a good payday to bring him to justice. But police are warning that if you do see him, please contact Crime Stoppers on a certain number, which I don't have right now, but contact Crime Stoppers.
The Y Factor.
In more Australian news, we have a kidnapping.
Yep. Well, we mentioned a kidnapping a few weeks ago, and basically the kidnappers from the Philippines have asked for a ransom of $26,600. But the family of the kidnapped adventurer, Warren Rodwell, have said that they can't afford to pay the ransom. I don't think you should put a price on family, let alone life.
Wow.
But he's still alive, which is good. Out of
financial problems, or basically they don't want to cooperate with losers?
No, it's from financial problems. That's what they're saying. The initial demand was $1 million, but they brought it down to $26,600, and they still can't even afford that. Now, the good point, I guess, from the family's perspective is they've seen footage of him and photos, so he's alive and well. Is being held by the Abu Saif group, and forgive me, but that sounds Islamic. And why?
Abu Saif.
Yeah, they've kidnapped him.
That sounds like one of your uncles, Abu Saif.
Abu Saif. No, that's not my uncle. He's on holiday, but not in the Philippines at the moment. Stop trying to link my family with crime just because I'm Lebanese. Okay, that's racial vilification on the Y Factor.
As if that's not.
I'm gonna file a complaint with the Australian Bureau of Complaints.
Right, Mohammed. Right. All right, so I think hopefully they do either manage to get the money, or hopefully they actually get this guy rescued, because honestly some of these kidnappers can actually be very brutal. Now, last but not least, Mohammed, do you have any good news for our HSC people?
I don't know if it's good news, but the New South Wales Ombudsman is looking into the low proportion of public high school students applying for HSC exam disability provisions compared with, and get ready, private school students.
So Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Wow.
We're sort of playing along with the whole public v private thing we had going on last week.
Yep.
But so
that's really interesting, because usually it's a sentiment, your public school kids got in through the 10 disadvantage marks or whatever.
It's amazing. Private schools have actually accounted for more than half of the applications for special provisions this year.
Wait. I know I'm going to get smashed for this, but maybe they're applying for special provisions because they're like private school.
Well,
special disadvantage.
I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. Well, and surprisingly, the private school students are actually from Christian Anglican colleges and other high fee schools. They actually applied for these provisions 3 times higher the rate than public school students.
Are you trying to say that to kind of subdue our...
No emphasis, but 3 times greater the rate than public high school students.
All right.
So I guess it shows that public school students have more resolve, they're more determined, they're more resilient to bounce back from calamities in their life. And that's my 2 cents, but the first part was factual. No
comment whatsoever. If any of you private school kids want to smash Mohammed, you can do that on the Y Factor page. No personal attacks. He gets really personal. No, he gets really sensitive, I mean. However, if you do have an opposing point of view, let us know.
No, that's actually factual information. I'm just merely stating the facts. But yeah, nonetheless, I believe that public high school students are more better prepared for tertiary education. That's my 2 cents. All right.
Now that brings us to the end of the news segment for this week. I think I just can't wait to interview AMIR SULAIMAN, and I think inshallah our listeners, it'll be an awesome interview for you guys.
I am not dangerous. I am danger.
Thank God we have the real person here and not like an imposter imitator. Anyway, so tune in for AMIR SULAIMAN and make sure that you stay tuned to the end of the episode, because we'll be reading out your 2012 year resolutions. For those of you who did post them on the Y Factor page, and we're going to hold you to account at the end of next year. And also we have the events for the end of this week. So make sure you stay tuned. You're listening to the Y Factor on 87.6 FM.
The Y Factor.
This is Omar Regan, and you're listening to Y Factor.
The Y Factor, an amazing radio station. If you're not listening to the Y Factor, you're probably not doing much.
I think the likes of Alan Jones and Ray Hadley are sort of keeping a close eye on you guys.
This is the segment to listen to. There's nothing better than this. It beats anything else.
Yeah, man, if you don't listen to the Y Factor, you are a bloody fool.
Y Factor Radio, the best radio station in Australia.
I am not angry. I am anger. I am not dangerous. I am danger. I am abominable stress, idiotic, relentless. I'm a breath of vengeance. I'm a death sentence. I'm forsaken repentance to the beast and his henchmen, armed forces and policemen. That survive off of oil and prisons of today. Cup runneth over with lost souls that wear oversized caps like blindfolds, shiny necklaces like lassos, dragging them into black holes. And I may have to highlight Fidel Castro to get my other brothers out of Guantanamo. And the innocents on death row is probably in the same proportion as the criminals in black robes, that smack gavels, that crack domes, that smack gavels, that smash homes. Justice is somewhere in between reading sad poems and 40 ounces of gasoline crashing through windows. It is between plans and action. It is between writing letters to congressmen and clapping the captain. It is between raising legal defense funds and put a gun on the bailiff and taking the judge captive. It is between prayer and fasting, between burning and blasting. Freedom is between the mind and the soul, between the lock and the load, between the zeal of the young and the patience of the old. Freedom is between the finger and the trigger. It is between the page and the pen. It is between the grenade and the pen. Between righteous anger and keeping one in the chamber. So what can they do with a cat with a heart like Turner, a mind like Douglas, a mouth like Malcolm, and a voice like Chris?
The Y Factor.
Wow, Mohammed, who is that?
Okay, AMIR SULAIMAN is an accomplished poet, activist, recording artist, and 2-time HBO Def Jam poet. He's hosted and performed for the National Breed Love Odyssey tour with Mos Jem and Talib Kweli, if that's how you pronounce it. He's caught the attention of Kanye West and Russell Simmons, who actually refer to him as blessed, and also Dave Chappelle. AMIR has performed at countless colleges, universities, high schools, and community centers. He's a member of the youth speakers in the Bay Area in California. He works regularly teaching kids the way of the spoken word and focusing on the union of art and education.
And even better, he's in the studio with us today. Welcome to the show, brother.
And I'm right here. Thank you very kindly. Thank you.
Welcome.
Jazakallah khair. Now, most of us have seen the YouTube clips doing the rounds. The people that saw you Monday night were absolutely bewildered. And here at the Y Factor, we thought what an honor to actually have you in the studio.
And it's my honor to be here with you in the studio.
That's right. We had 500 people at the event on Monday, alhamdulillah. How'd you feel about the crowd?
It felt like 1,000 people.
Mashallah.
I had it in the stadium.
I think
the Lebanese gene is rubbing onto the exaggeration.
You know what I'm saying? You guys have been teaching me well. Thank you.
Yeah. So how do you like Sydney so far?
I like it. I've been here just for a few days, but they've been taking very good care of me and taking me around, and I've been meeting the people, and so it's been good.
You prepared to make hijrah to Sydney? Come on.
I'm working on it. If it wasn't so far away from everything else in my life, then yeah.
We'll bring your life here.
You know what I'm saying? If you could like just drag California maybe 1,000 miles closer, maybe we can work something out.
Now, you've spent some time in Melbourne. Honest opinion, Melbourne or Sydney?
See, you guys need to, I love Sydney. I love Melbourne. You guys need to kiss and make up.
Never.
When I'm in Melbourne, I'm like, yeah, you know, so after this, I'm going to Sydney. Sydney? Why would you do that? You're going to hate it. Don't go. And then everybody from Sydney was like, why are you in Melbourne? You need to come to Sydney. You'll have more fun. What's wrong with you?
You had to give it to us. We're an isolated, you know, country. There's no one around
We're
us.
only 2 states away. I mean,
right. So there's a bit of sibling rivalry, I see. Mashallah. But it's good. I enjoy Australia altogether.
But don't worry, if you make hijrah, like we're the Medina of, you know, Australia. So you come here straight
just
away.
so you know.
Got it.
All right, brother. So can you just tell us a bit about your background and your upbringing?
Well, I'm from upstate New York, and I started writing when I was young. Yep. So I started writing. I was like 11, 12 years old or something, and it was just something I would just do. And it was something that came very naturally, and I thought it was something that everyone did. And I was very influenced by, you know, obviously other poetry and hip hop music, and you know, the rappers that I looked up to and listened to and stuff. And it just grew. And then I started. There was an open mic at a coffee shop in Rochester every Tuesday night or something, and they would you know, you just come in and sign a list and you come and do your thing. And I started doing that when I was about 14 or 15 years old.
And you found the zone.
Yeah, that's how it went. And then, you know, I used to be so nervous. Like, I used to have to I had to start memorizing my pieces, because when I would hold the paper, my hand would shake so violently that I couldn't read off of the paper. That's how like nervous I was. So it was like that, you know, for a while. But you know, I did it more and more and more and more. I got more and more comfortable, you know.
Well, watching the clips, you'd think, you know, you were, you know, doing this since you were born.
No, it's always a process, you know. And the reason I say that is because, you know, maybe there's someone that writes poetry now, and they say, oh, I could never get in front of people. I felt like that too. Or they say, if I got in front of people, I'm always so nervous. And I was like that too. And like, you know, so it's you know, it's a process. So when you see, you know, the AMIR SULAIMAN today, you know, that wasn't the 12-year-old, you know, it was very different, you know what I'm saying? But it was a process, and you know, I worked up to the point where I can do what I do now.
That's all right. I think Muhammad fainted the first you know, episode we did on air too, so you'll get that Muhammad one day.
Got it.
Now myself, this is a personal interest of mine, but I love poetry. And Islam's got a rich history in poetry. So do you seek inspiration from Islamic poets of our past?
Oh yeah, definitely. Really, what my poetry lies between, you know, influence of like hip hop and like Nas and Black Thought and Andre 3000 and this, and then like, you know, Attar and Rumi, and you know, so like this and all the space that is in between those two, you know. And so I definitely, you know, even if you look at my bag right now that I have with me, you'll find, you know, much of the poetry from the Islamic tradition. And like you said, it's very rich. Wherever Islam goes, it elevates the prestige and the language of the place where it goes. So like when it goes into obviously the Arabs, and then when it goes to Persia, you know, like the highest form of Persian language, you know, you'll find it with the Islamic poets. When it entered into Urdu, you know, in Pakistan and things, you know, it produced high level poetry and poets that were doing things with the language that hadn't been done before. You'll find that in Senegal, you'll find that in Gambia, you'll find that, so wherever it went. And so in the English language, I likewise, as a Muslim poet, as part of that tradition, I would hope to uphold that tradition and bring the English language above and beyond where it had gone pre-Islam.
I think, mashallah, some of your YouTube clips have actually done that, and they're filled with not only passion but eloquence, and a lot of, you know, words of, as you said, taking that beyond level of, you know, hip hop is the basic, and then mashallah, you're taking it to that level. Now, where do you actually get your inspiration from? Now, these songs are so moving. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, it's it comes Allahu Alam, really. It's like sometimes they surprise me. Like I'll be writing something and it'll surprise me what's coming out. So mostly it's just a process of not like making the poems, but it's more like allowing the poems. Like you know, a great artist, sculptor, and they asked him, how did he, has a sculpture, Peter Michelangelo, and they were asking him, like, how did you get it so lifelike and it's so beautiful, and the proportions and the texture of the skin and the muscular composition and everything. This is like a perfect piece of art. Like, how do you produce these sculptures? And he was saying, I didn't create the sculpture, I just liberated it from the rock that it was in. And so it's not like the poems are like I'm making them, it's like I'm allowing them to like to come through. So the source and the reality of where the poems come from, you know, God knows. Yeah.
SubhanAllah, how about your expression? I mean, you've got a very powerful presence. I think you're well known by far, and a lot of the Australian Muslims mention this for the Danger YouTube video, and just a very powerful presence in your expression as well. Is that something that will come from the content of the poem, or does each individual poet have their own sort of style?
Yeah, each poet has their style, and for like myself, each poem has its own character, it's its own engagement. So like each poem is like a person. So like I'm always Amir, but when I'm talking to my mother, it's like a different Amir. When I'm talking to my daughter, it's like a different Amir. When I'm talking to my friend, it's a different Amir. So it's all Amir, but it has different manifestations depending on what person I'm engaging. Likewise, there's the Amir of danger, then there's the Amir of broken neck, broken heart, then there's the Amir of, you know, this love poem, and there's Amir of this, you know. So it's just, it is all me, but it just manifests in different ways depending on what I'm engaging. Yeah.
Now, speaking of these different Amirs, mashallah, you know, you've done different things. Can you tell us, for our audience, what's the most momentous part of your career? Was there a moment where you were just like, you know, wow?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of wow moments. It's like, it's really fascinating, you know? Like sometimes I'll be on a plane. Like for example, when I was coming here, I'm on my way to the airport, right? And I'll be sitting next to a guy or something, and you know, we'd start talking. So where you going? Yeah, I'm going to Australia. Like, wow, you're going to Australia? You're going there for business or vacation? I was like, yeah, I'm going there for business. What do you do? And then even to me, I almost forget because it's not like work, you know? And I'll be like, and it sounds even strange coming out of my mouth. Like, yeah, they're bringing me over there I write poems, and I'm going to say them to them. And they always kind of like, wow, really? like, yeah, that's what I do for a living. This is my life. And that in and of itself is amazing. So even me being here in Sydney, it's like, wow, I'm here on the other side of earth for what? Because of poetry. But I can tell you if I had to pick one moment off the top of my head right now, it was like a third, matter of fact, this was Omar Regan that gave me this phone call, who's been here before, and he, you know, I'm asleep. He calls me in the morning. Salam alaikum, walaikum salam. You want to go to Hajj? Okay. All right, we're leaving next weekend. Okay. You know, and that was, you know, and I performed my Hajj, and that was by virtue of my poetry. So it was all like sponsored and paid for, and it was, I had made no intention for Hajj. I was not like making dua to go to Hajj. I had no provisions for Hajj whatsoever. And I ended up then, I remember walking into the Haram in Medina, and like, wow, like this happened because of poetry, you know, mashallah. So that was a wow moment for me.
MashaAllah. Yeah. We're going to get some backstage access now. Before you appeared for the first time on HBO, Danger, something was going on. You're having a battle in your mind. Yeah.
Well, it's for it's kind of a long story, but to keep the story brief, it was you know, they invited me there to do this poem called Eve Amongst Beasts. And okay, so the way HBO Def Poetry works is that it's invitation only, and they invite you, and they film the whole season in like in a week or 4 days or something. Really? Like that. Yeah. So they have multiple shows per day. So the shows that you're seeing, there might be a morning show or afternoon show, and they have a new studio audience coming every time. So they do the whole season in a week, and they invite all the poets up. and you do 2 poems, and they pick one of the 2 poems, or they might not pick any of them, you know. And so although you've been invited and you come to New York and you're at Times Square and it's all exciting, you may still not actually be on the show, you know. So they called me to do Eve Amongst Beasts, and that was great, and you know, it was a big honor. I was very happy with it. But at the time, politically, what was going on, you know, at that point, America had already, you know, engaged in military action in Afghanistan, and they were ramping up for the shock and awe campaign in Iraq. And I had this other poem, namely Danger, that I felt like was more relevant, you know. It was more of what needed to be said. And so I decided to do that poem instead, but there was a risk because I may do the poem and they may not air it. And there were other poets that they had censored. So they had censored like the last poets. And the last poets are like the OGs of, do you guys say OG?
Original gangsters.
Yeah. Like they're like,
I only know that from my high school, but no one else knows that.
No, but they're like, you know, like the forefathers of, you know, of what we will call spoken word poetry now, and even rap music. So this is a group of poets that were very popular in the 70s, and it would be like having a reggae fest and
not inviting Bob Marley.
Exactly, that's what it's like. So they came and did some things, some poetry, and they didn't air it. They cut it. Whoa. So like that was like, you know, and they were censor people like Mary Baraka, where these are like big people. So I was thinking, I'm gonna do this, and they're just not gonna air it. You know what I'm saying? But I was feeling like I was like doing a sacrifice, and right. But I remember I got there, and once I was actually walking onto the stage, I had all kinds of anxiety. Like, man, maybe I should just do the other poem, and maybe I should do it like this. And you know, I'm having this long conversation in my head about it while I'm actually walking on stage. But then I decided just to do it, and I think that's part of the reason why it came out like that, because it was so
heartfelt at the time.
Yeah, it was so much. It was so real, and I was really feeling like I was making like a big sacrifice, you know. So it was like, you know, so it came out with so much, you know, and but then it turned out everybody loved it. And they put it on TV anyway, mashallah. So, and that's what brings me here to Sydney.
SubhanAllah. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, those life-changing moments. Now, speaking of Iraq and Palestine, as well as a poet, you're also an advocate and an activist. What do you actually advocate and, you know?
Well, more so than like political advocacy, it is more principled advocacy. You know what I mean? It is like it is just the principles, really the big principle, as like goofy and maybe as, you know, far out as it sounds, is it's really of creating and generating more and spreading more love, and for people to see human beings as human beings, and to be able to, because the way war, most of the times in the modern era, the way it is performed, the way it is carried out, you have to dehumanize people. So when you see a bleeding child, you have to think that that child is not like your child. Like that's not a human being like you're a human being, because otherwise people wouldn't be able to do it. People, and in the heart of hearts, they know it. This is why people, like for example, in America, there are more people that came back from the war, soldiers that came back from the war and committed suicide than soldiers that were actually killed in the war. So somewhere in their heart, they know these are human beings like I'm a human being, and that's someone's daughter like I have my daughter, and that's someone's mother like I had my mother. And but to encourage that instead of suppressing it, because much of the military training, psychological training, is suppressing that reality. You're different, so they make up words and slurs and labels, racist terms, and like, you know, insurgents or terrorists, or what do you call it,
collateral damage.
These type of words to say that's not somebody's mother, that's not somebody's brother, that's just collateral, you see. And so my big advocacy, it's not just this country, it's not just Iraq, it's not just Palestine, it's not just Muslim, it's not just American, it's not just African, it's not just black people. It's the point saying that we are all human beings, and if we don't increase in love and increase in the effort of spreading love, then there will be hell for all of us in this life and in the next life. But even here, there will be just horrible life and suffering, you know. And I would like to relieve suffering, and the thing that, like I said, as high-minded or whatever as it sounds, is the only way to relieve suffering is through genuine, sincere love.
That's a noble principle to work off, mashallah.
Definitely. SubhanAllah, that is a very powerful message. Now, you've obviously been proliferating this message in the different countries you visited. What's the most striking country to you?
The most striking country.
And don't say America, please.
A bit patriotic.
Nah, it's again, like the countries, like the homes, they're like different. They're different people that have different characteristics. I know when I went to Morocco, I went to Fez, and that was really, really, really a powerful experience. And I went to Senegal, and that was a really powerful experience. And my teacher, my Shaykh, is there in Senegal. So for me, it was particularly special because I was going to see him. And it was, but just seeing the people in the village, in the city where he lived, and seeing the people there, and it was starkly different from where I was from. And maybe that's why it was so striking, because it's so different than where I grew up and how I grew up. And I learned a lot, but just traveling, it's all of it is a big learning experience, and just seeing how different human, and for me, it makes it easier. It makes my heart wider, because once you are with the people and you're there on the ground and you see and you smell and you eat with them and you see how they celebrate and things that are important to them, things that are unimportant to them, it makes it easier to understand their motivations and why they do a thing or not do another thing. So the more we can understand each other, the more it's easier to love each other.
And I mean, you've said that obviously your drive and your impetus is spreading the love, to all the people and giving human beings their real essence back. Is also part of the fact that most Muslims, I don't know, I'll tell you the situation in Australia, there's not much emphasis on the arts. A lot of parents are encouraging their kids to go to uni and become doctors, lawyers, engineers,
coming
and what have you.
Coming from the person who's studying law and journalism. But
yeah, I know. But I don't know. I have a passion for the arts, but I find that most Muslim youth don't, and it's sad because the Quran came down, and the miracle of the Quran, as we know, one of the many miracles is the poetic eloquence that that can't be matched. And the pride of joy of the time was poetry. Arabs were the masters of poetry, and Islam came down to, using that pride of joy of the time. Do you see that around the world traveling, that there's a void of a lack of passion for the arts?
Yeah, definitely I see that. It's that way in America. I found that in Europe among the Muslims, and here I think a lot of it is just because, and I can understand it, like as parents, your main motivation is to make sure that your children can eat and like pay their rent and sustain a family and things like that. So I understand the motivation to do something that will produce like job security and things like that, and even in America, the arts are not like a secure profession, even in America. My mother, alhamdulillah, has been very, supportive of me, and my father has been very supportive of me in the arts. But I find that to be true, that it's difficult and I think a lot of it has to do with, immigrant communities. They have a lot of, it's very important for them to establish themselves, and they're thinking of the best strategies to establish themselves is to get good, stable careers for themselves and their children. And they work very hard for the children to be able to go to university, and they work very hard for their children to have, good jobs, and they work. So they want to see, like, I've came here and I worked hard, and now you want to be a poet? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? This is not why I came to.
You're gonna work hard to make money.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it is what it is, mashallah. I understand why that is so.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, Jazakallah khair, brother. Just before we let you go, we want to do 5 quick questions. You're in the hot seat, so you've got 5 seconds to answer each question.
Got it. Okay, let's go.
Okay, the first one. What's your favorite food?
Is it racist for me to say chicken?
Oh.
Did I just let down all
chicken, Moroccan chicken, Kentucky chicken.
Fried chicken.
I'm going to go with barbecue chicken.
Barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
Okay, second question. Do you sing in the shower?
Not really. I do poems in the shower. I may sing every once in a while, though.
Your own poems?
Yeah.
Is that rehearsal room?
I guess that's kind of arrogant now that I think about it. Kind of self-absorbed.
If you can have a dinner date at the moment with anyone in the world, who would it be?
A dinner date with anyone in the world?
Don't say.
Look at this guy in the back.
Someone in the background is yelling out Kardashian, but
that's what I'm saying. You put me in the hot seat, I might say something inappropriate. Like, you know what I'm saying? The interview was going so well until we answered the whole "who does want to have a date with" question.
We'll rephrase it in a halal context. Who would you invite to a barbecue to your house?
To a barbecue. Well, my barbecue, I would invite some of the artists that I really
No. Name.
It has to be one?
Yeah.
One name.
Yeah, Latif, I don't know, man. That's a hard question.
You're obviously not starstruck by anyone.
I know they're all dead. Everyone else.
You can say Kim Kardashian in a niqab. It's all right.
Kim in a niqab. Call me.
All right. Favorite quote of all time.
My favorite quote of all time. My favorite quote of all time is that I didn't come except to perfect character.
Allahu Akbar.
That's a hadith, alhamdulillah.
Is that you redeeming yourself for the Kim Kardashian comment?
So I figure I'll make up for that, alhamdulillah.
Okay, where would your favorite destination be if you could go anywhere right now?
Right now? Sydney, Australia.
Oh.
I'm winning now.
We're going to get you some chicken after the interview.
That's what I'm saying. I'm winning now.
Okay, who's your best role model?
And it can be someone who's not alive at the moment.
Okay, no, we'll give him two categories. Obviously, I was going to say religious role model. We all know who that is.
Right, because it will be the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's by default. So we'll assume that. And then after that, his like one of his like right hand men, Hassan bin Thabit, may Allah be pleased with him, and he will battle the other poets, and they will, I always am inspired by his, his advocacy for Deen, and so and he would tell him like, go get him. Like, he'd be up in the marketplace, and he'd stand on a, thing, and he would preach about La ilaha illallah, and then after he would get off, and the people would be listening, and after he would get off, the Kuffar of Mecca would send up, the dancing girls and the poets who would sing about girls and gold and wine, and now rappers sing about gold and girls and wine, and to distract the people from the message that they just heard.
Wow.
And then once that was happening, he got Hassan ibn Thabit, radiallahu anhu, and he would tell him, he was like, okay, go get them. Destroy them. So
SubhanAllah, again, the power of spoken word. That's right. Favorite film?
It may be The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I
haven't watched that one.
Much.
Is that recent, or is that like the 70s or 80s?
I think maybe early 2000s. So maybe.
You mean second century or 2000?
No, it's relatively recent. It's a movie with it's a very weird. I like very weird movies. It's a very weird movie, so everybody may not like it, but it's one of my favorite movies.
Okay,
maybe we can have a Y Factor screening, and then do a live streaming to him if it sucks with him.
For commentary.
Right. DVD commentary.
Okay, your favorite joke of all time.
There was a guy
and it can be lame.
Okay, it's gonna be lame for sure. All right, so there's a guy walking home from work, and he was in a bit of trouble with his wife, right? So he says that, I want to get something for my wife, like a gift, and he's like, man, I don't know what to get. So he's walking home, and then he sees this big roll of cheese coming down the hill, like a big roll, right? So he says she loves cheese. This is what I'm gonna get. So he picks up the wheel of cheese, right? And he brings it home. He puts it on the table, says, hey, honey, I'm home, and I got you some cheese, some nacho cheese. She said, this isn't nacho cheese. This is blue cheese, or cheddar cheese. He says, no, it's nacho cheese. She says, no, it's cheddar cheese. He says, nacho cheese. He said, no, it's cheddar cheese. She says, why do you think this is nacho cheese? He said, because when it came down the hill and I picked it up, there was a guy at the top of the hill saying, that's not your cheese, that's not your cheese. That's
That was alright. That's not lame. That's pretty cool.
I think Mohammed's going to be laughing about that one for a week.
That's not your cheese.
Ending on a corny and cheesy note, if you could actually take one person to Jannah with you, who would it be?
My mother.
Your mother?
Inshallah.
I mean, she can take you to Jannah. Heaven's
I
under
know.
her feet.
If not, then it'll be my daughter's there.
Inshallah.
Alright,
I think we asked him the quick 50 questions.
I think we're just going to get carried away.
Great. Did I do like the MVP of hot seat? Am I winning right now?
We'll give you your fried chicken after
and
the
put a picture of me on the wall like hot seat champion.
Lamest joke.
Lamest joke. Yeah, we could put it up there on the wall so other
All
people
right,
know.
Brother Amir, do you have any concluding words for our audience, our young audience struggling?
Yeah, some motivational words for the Muslim youth of Sydney.
Alhamdulillah. Number one, I would say try your best to be sincere. And when I say be sincere, not just saying how you should be, but try to be who you are so that you can become better. Because sometimes I find in the youth, they're like so much struggling with trying to be something that they never really go anywhere because they don't first accept who they are. So accept who you are, all the good things about you, all the bad things about you. Accept that first, and then you can work on making it better. And two, I would say to be assertive, to work hard, to invest all of yourself in love and spreading love. As much as your heart can handle, generate and express love. Be kind to people, be nice to people, because mostly everyone is living a hard life, in the secret of their hearts. When they lay down that bed at night, a lot of people are sad, a lot of people are lonely, a lot of people have anxiety. And if you're just nice, most people, they just want to be treated nicely, so if you treat a person at the store, or a lady, be it Muslim or non-Muslim or whoever, and they treat them nicely, it does a lot for them, even though you may not see it or know it, because a lot of people are lonely and a lot of people are suffering. So be nice to each other.
I think we got Muhammad melting there.
Yeah. I need some tissues.
No, honestly, some powerful words. Again, we can't say thank you enough for coming on the show. Alhamdulillah, we had a good laugh, and we'll take the discussion to Facebook, inshallah. So if any of you guys have any questions to direct at Amir Sulaiman, make sure you post them on the Y Factor page.
And he's also got his own website.
That's right.
Do you want to?
Okay, so find me on Facebook, but my Facebook personal page is filled up. So find my fan page.
What do you mean? It's capped the limit?
Yeah, because you can only have 5,000.
Has been
wow,
reached.
Is that possible on Facebook?
You should have a message. Awesomeness has been reached.
Right, exactly. You can put that on the plaque with my championship.
3 awards now.
Right. So my personal, you can only have 5,000 friends. So that I've reached capacity, but I'm trying to get people to go over there. Stubborn for some reason, but to go over for my fan page so I can accept more people. One, and two, you can find me on Twitter, Amir Sulaiman, AMIR SULAIMAN, and my website, amirsulaiman.com, same spelling as the name.
Jazakallah khairan for your time today, brother Amir. We appreciate it, inshallah, and we wish you all the best with your future endeavors.
And we'll be waiting for you to come back Hijrah. We'll give you a lot of chicken.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you kindly. I'll be back there.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The Y Factor.
Wow, mashallah, he's such a gentleman.
I think definitely, subhanAllah, he had some very powerful words of advice for all of us. And I think they're very pertinent, love, not in the corny sense, but just in terms of compassion, understanding. And I think that's what we honestly lack as a community, as humanity. These days, it's all hate, news is all negative, everything's negative, war. And, this message of love will permeate. And,
What a noble principle to be working off when you travel around the world.
Well, speaking of traveling, I think, mashallah, Sydney's had some of the most awesome speakers this week in town, and one of them is actually Shaykh Abdul Hakim Murad, also known as TJ Winter. Now
Professor Timothy Winter.
That's right. Now Muhammad actually got an exclusive soundbite with him, so we're going to air that shortly after the break, so stay tuned. You're listening to the Y Factor on 87.6 FM.
I say down with the lies, but we must learn, know, write, read. We must kick, bite, yell, scream. We must pray, fast, live, dream, fight, kill, and die free.
Welcome back, guys. So now, just for our soundbite with Shaykh Abdul Hakim Murad, Muhammad, do you want to tell us a bit about him, please?
Yeah, also known as Professor Timothy Winton from the UK. He done I think it was a week and a half tour here in Sydney. They had a Q&A session in Auburn. He had an interfaith dialogue with Cardinal George Pell, a Protestant leader and a Buddhist leader. Really well, mashallah. He literally blew away the crowd. His intelligence, his logic, his reasoning clearly surpassed all the other speakers. I also attended his workshop at Bonnie Rigg Mosque on spirituality spirituality in the modern world. He's unbelievable, mashallah. He's such a gem. Anyway, I had a chat with him over the weekend, and here it is.
Assalamualaikum everyone, it's Mohammed from the Y Factor here. I'm at the Shaykh Abdul Hakim Murad course at Bonnyrigg Mosque. We're blessed enough to have him here. Assalamualaikum Sheikh, and welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thanks very much. It's a great privilege to be here.
Now, firstly, what's your impression of Australia? I mean, you've been here before, but has it changed since the last time you've been here?
Well, the country obviously has moved on. I guess I was here in April 2004, and it's a fast-moving community. There's a lot of good things happening, new masajid being built, new courses available, new generation of imams and leaders coming online, more khutbahs being delivered in English. I think the community is moving on into the second generation, third generation now, and it's becoming more mature, more at ease with itself as a Muslim reality and the sort of diverse reality of modern Australia. So, yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm picking up a lot of good signals here.
Alhamdulillah. Have you brought with you some ideas from, I guess, the UK and your studies and research to Australia and I guess as advice to our local scholars and imams?
Well, I'm involved with an initiative in the city of Cambridge, where I live at the moment, which is the Cambridge Muslim College, which is not so much an Islamic college in the traditional sense. We don't teach Islam very much. But what we do is we take young people who have a Sharia qualification, whether they've studied in an Islamic university in England or abroad, and we kind of upgrade their skill set. So they spend a year with us learning about other religions, British law, medical issues, how to deal with addiction and other problems in the Muslim community, counselling, pastoral skills, how basically to understand and to apply what they've learned in the context of the modern British reality. We find it's very successful. We pick the best of the young generation, and alhamdulillah, they're hafiz and they know their stuff. Some of them have studied Sharia for 10, 15 years. But what they lack is really a knowledge of how properly to apply their knowledge to the reality of the outside world. So maybe that's a model that could be useful and push the Australian Muslim community onto still greater heights, inshallah. It's certainly working very well for us.
Inshallah. And finally, what's your message to the Muslim youth of Australia?
I think the message has to be trust in Allah, love His creation, be grateful for the many blessings which we have, be optimistic about Allah's intentions towards the Ummah, and Allah is the master of history, and however worried we might be about so many things that are happening in our lives, in our relationships, our communities, the Muslim world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the unjust in His sight, and inshallah the victory will always be for the believers in the long term.
Amen, inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan for your time, Sheikh.
وياكم بارك الله فيكم وفي جميع المسلمين في أستراليا.
Amen.
SubhanAllah, he had to squeeze a lot into that. If you are interested in pursuing further publications or articles written by the Sheikh, there's a website called Masoud Khan. So just type in Masoud into Google, and he actually has a whole series of articles written by the Sheikh. And especially, he's got one called Boys Will Be Boys, and he takes a critical look at feminism from an Islamic perspective. But it's really, really interesting because he discusses, like, you know how usually feminism is smashed. He discusses it from like the text of Germaine Greer and things like that, and kind of shows, it's just brilliant. You have to read it. And mashallah, he's got a lot of other articles as well as audio recordings. So be sure to visit Masoud Khan's site for that, and type it into Google.
Inshallah. Right now we're going to go to our Y Factor Facebook page, and Nadia Abdul Fattah posted a comment, and she wanted to hear everyone's thoughts about what they thought for 2012 for the Muslim community. And we're about to read out some of what we believe are some of the good comments.
Yes, the range of comments were very interesting. We had Suha Alamuddin saying her New Year's resolution was to stop having car accidents. And Suha, seriously, after 13, I think you should stop. Some of them were actually a lot more deep and meaningful.
Yeah, Amna actually spoke about and complimented some of these sort of insightful, I guess fresh sort of events, you know, the Isra's debates, something that's out of the, breaking the status quo
innovative
in terms of events, innovative, fresh, right. Not bid'ah related, but innovative in terms of the style of the event.
That's right. Hannah Gishingi was saying that she would love to see people stop pointing fingers at each other, saying this sheikh is wrong, this sheikh is right, for us to inshallah unite and make 2012 a better year for the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We also had
Hisham had some very good comments.
That's right. Well, Hisham was trying to take over the world. He basically was said in relation to what Shaykh Abdul Hakim Murad was saying, that he'd like to see beads associated with smiles and not sullen expressions, and that unity is something major. He'd like to see all of us drop our egos and the holier than thy attitude, and consider that perhaps maybe we're the ones that should say sorry, even though it wasn't our fault. SubhanAllah, there was a lot of details, so I won't read out the whole post. You can visit the Y Factor page for more. What else, Mohammed? I think
all in all, everyone's sort of given off a very optimistic vibe, inshallah, for 2012, especially because this year has been action-packed. We've had our Ramadan moon-sighting dramas and shuyukh punching on with words. That's my Granville boys jargon coming out.
That's right.
Nonetheless, there's been drama in all regards, so I think Muslim youth want less drama, more respect, more exercise of adab.
And keep them coming on the Facebook page, inshallah. I think I had feedback from 2 community leaders who are actually on the group. They said it was very heartening to actually see what the youth actually had to feel. So don't bottle up your sentiments. Let us know on the Facebook page. And as you should know by now, Facebook, the Y Factor Facebook page is the way to go if you want to air any of your sentiments.
That's right. Think of us as your online punching bag.
That's right. Now, just quickly, I know the hour, mashallah, passed so quickly. But just events for this week. We've got the Authentic Happiness with Ustad Nuruddin Limo. Now, this will be at the LMA Centre on 1G Road. It's his last talk. So if you're interested in, basically what authentic happiness is from an Islamic perspective, be sure to come. And that's 6:30 to 10 p.m. at the UMA Centre. And it's organised by Happiness for Wellness. Okay? So I think, inshallah, that's something to look into.
And I think UMA has something going on New Year's Eve. Is that right?
That's right. For the boys, there's a New Year's Eve night with the boys. With a Z, that's it. Which is Saturday from 5 p.m. till 12 a.m. And it's at the Perry Park Indoor Sports Centre. So if you are interested, make sure you go hang out with the boys. There's Oztag comp, free barbecue and things like that. So from the Y Factor here.
For the last time in 2011.
I know, we really don't want to go, but alhamdulillah, we've had an action-packed episode as usual.
Year.
And it's been so awesome.
Unbelievable speakers, unbelievable people. We love you guys. Thank you for listening and pumping up our Facebook page and discussion and what have you.
Thank you very much. And from the Y Factor team, we say...
Get ready for a launch in February, inshallah.
That's right. And for now, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Stay safe in holidays.